Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. I was scrolling through X and I came across this post from Polymarket. Breaking: the odds of Jesus Christ returning this year have doubled overnight. 4% chance. And you might be thinking, okay, this is just nonsense. Of course, Polymarket's not going to have any way to predict when Christ is going to come. This is just nonsense. And I would generally agree with you, but this may actually be a type of indicator as to when Christ might come, and I'll explain why in just a minute. I was tempted just to keep scrolling, but there was just something about this, and then when I looked into it closer, I had a realization, and it's not what you're thinking right now. So before we get into that, I've updated the Book of Mormon challenge. We're trying to share 10,000 copies of the Book of Mormon, just like we did last time with the Flood the Earth challenge. As of right now, we have 41 people participating, and a total of 58 copies of the Book of Mormon have been shared. So far, no reports of people meeting with missionaries, but if they do, make sure to let me know. If you share a Book of Mormon, they meet with the missionaries, they get baptized, use these hashtags over here. Hashtag BOM, hashtag missionaries, hashtag baptism, and put it in the comments of any video on my channel. I search for those hashtags and then I'll update it. And then I keep track for you over here. We're trying to individually, the goal is to try and share 10 copies of the Book of Mormon. So please try and do that. But let's do more with this channel other than just be entertained and keep on top of news and things like that. We can organize ourselves and actually make a difference in the world and help prepare the world for the second coming by warning them and bringing others onto the covenant path. Okay, so Polymarket. In case you don't know what that is, let's go to Wikipedia. Polymarket is an American cryptocurrency-based prediction market headquartered in Manhattan, New York City. Launched in 2020, it offers a platform where individuals can trade event contracts on future outcomes, primarily sports matches, but also including economic indicators, weather patterns, awards, and political and legislative outcomes. Well, and I guess we're not excluding the timing of the second coming. Scholars have challenged that Polymarket efficiently and accurately aggregates information about outcomes. The betting markets offered by the company, as well as the ability of individuals with insider information to bet on outcomes, have been described as, quote unquote, legal and ethical gray area. Polymarket has been banned by governments in multiple jurisdictions, including France, Switzerland, Singapore, and Poland. The platform was blocked in the United States amid regulatory scrutiny. The second Donald Trump administration eased the regulatory environment for Polymarket. At the same time, Polymarket added Donald Trump Jr. as an advisor after his firm, 1789 Capital, invested in Polymarket. So it's basically a betting market. I decided to go to the website itself. So this is what it looks like. Here's that jump where it went from about 2% to 4%. And, you know, that looks pretty dramatic, right? Why do you think it jumped up? I don't know. It jumped up February 1st. I don't know if it has anything to do with what's going on in Iran. But you can look at other time frames. And so if you click on past and go to December 31st, it's going to show us how things have gone going back to March 20th of last year. And it has steadily gone down. Like, that's pretty linear. So I'd be curious to see, you know, what it looks like in a few months. But in the short term, there was a little bit of a jump. So it's really not that dramatic. You also have August 31st of 2023, and that doesn't look much better than last year. And so, you know, why would you pay attention to this? It's all just people having a little bit of fun with betting. Um, I, I wonder if like anybody would actually expect that they would get a payout if the second if the second coming happened. If Polymarket would still exist after the second coming. Of course, you have all these different religions with different beliefs about the second coming, but it all in all, it's just kind of silly. I think a lot of these people are just kind of doing it tongue in cheek, but what do I know? But why, would we potentially be interested in this? You and me, my audience, or members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, or even Christianity as a whole? Well, um, let's take a look at Matthew 24. I feel like we've read this a lot lately, and we're going to read more verses than what I usually do. We're going to go from verse 37 to 44. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, and the one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. So there it is right there. You have all these people that are for some reason betting on the second coming. And at least last year, it looks like people started thinking less and less that the second coming was soon. You have this downwards trend. So if Christ is going to come at a time that ye think not, well, by the end of December, it was at an all-time low, at least on Polymarket. I don't know how well this reflects the rest of the world. Probably not at all, but maybe it kind of does. I don't know. I wish there was some way that you could do like a worldwide poll and do something like this and compare and see how well this matches the general population. But that's kind of interesting. At least with this group, it seems like they don't think it's happening soon. Come back to current, and this still is not very high. Actually, let's go back to, let's see, what does it say the percent chances here? Okay, so this ended up down at 0, or like 0.1%, and the peak was at 3.6. And so this year, it's peaked at 4.5. Well, actually, this first one is a little bit higher. November 26, 4.7, but then it dropped, and now it's kind of climbed back up. So that it's more than last year if you compare this data to this one over here, the 2025 from March until December. But at a time that ye think not. I find it interesting that they decided to use the Del Parsons portrait of Christ. And by the way, in case you're curious, I did a video dispelling the notion that that's the most accurate depiction of Jesus Christ, because that's something that I heard growing up, that general authority said that's actually what he really looks like. But Del Parson himself addressed this. So if you want to read this, this spreadsheet is called Quotes, Prophecy, False/Unverified, or you can also go look for the video. I think I did it within the last several months. Okay, so the last thing I want to touch on is the concept of gambling. I'll never forget this talk. This was the April 2005 General Conference, and it was given by President Hinckley. It just stood out to me for some reason. I've never gambled. Never. I've never, ever gambled. But this stuck out to me. And I thought I might share some of what he said here because I think, just from my own experience in observing others in my life, I think some people in the church struggle with this and they come up with justifications. And this is probably one of the newer ways to justify gambling. It's like, no, this is like an investment. This is, it's not gambling. Well, I don't know if I agree with that. Okay, so he says, now to go on to the subject that I wish to discuss tonight, I do so in response to a number of requests that have come to me concerning the position of the church on a practice that is becoming more common among us, and particularly among our youth. That is the matter of gambling in various forms. I'm glad that he says that because some people like to play with words or think in terms of technicalities and be like, well, technically that's not gambling. And they miss the spirit of the law, or they think that they can manipulate things in such a way where they can, it's justification. All right, continuing. The story is told that one Sunday, Calvin Coolidge, one-time president of the United States and a man noted for a few words, returned from church. His wife asked him what the preacher spoke about. He replied, sin. What did he say? She asked. He was against it, was his reply. I think I could answer the question concerning gambling just that briefly. We are against it. Later on, he says, one writer says in a letter to me, I can see this evil creeping up in so many lives lately. It is all over the TV. ESPN has something called Celebrity Poker and National Poker Championships. She continues, one of our friends invited my husband to sign up for the local poker championship game for a fee. His friend said, it's not gambling. Your money just goes into this big pot and whoever wins gets the pot. Is this gambling? Of course it is. Gambling is simply a process that takes money and does not offer a fair return in goods or services. So this is it right here, you guys. This is the playing with words, doing mental gymnastics. It's like, no, it's not like you're playing an individual hand and you're betting with chips or whatever. Think of it like this. You're paying to join this tournament. So it's just like if you're going to, some other event, you're going to a carnival, you're going to a movie, you're going to whatever to go enjoy a good time. So think of it like that. And it's like, no, because there's a big reward. Whoever wins that championship gets that money. And so there's going to be certain people attracted to the poker championship game or the tournament for that reason alone. The prospect of winning the pot. Of course it's gambling. Of course it is. Okay, later on, he said, the pursuit of a game of chance may seem like harmless fun, but there attaches to it an intensity that actually shows on the faces of those who are playing. And in all too many cases, this practice, which appears innocent, can lead to an actual addiction. The church has been and is now opposed to this practice. If you have never been involved in poker games, if you have never been involved in poker games and other forms of gambling, don't start. If you are involved, then quit now while you can do so. And I echo that. It's not good. It's not good at all. I want to read a couple more quotes. So he pointed to several quotes in his talk from various presidents of the church and one future president of the church. At the time, Elder Dallin H. Oaks. So I think that's kind of interesting because before that, Spencer W. Kimball, Heber J. Grant, Joseph F. Smith, George Q. Cannon, who was a member of the First Presidency, Brigham Young, and Joseph Smith. So out of all those people, Dallin H. Oaks gets thrown into the mix, and now he's president of the church. So we're going to read a quote from what he said, President Dallin H. Oaks. But before that, I want to read this from Joseph Smith. So this is the Joseph Smith Papers website, Latter-day Saints, 1844. Okay. From that time, the work rolled forth with astonishing rapidity, and churches were soon formed in the states of New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri. In the last named state, a considerable settlement was formed in Jackson County. Numbers joined the church, and we were increasing rapidly. We made large purchases of land, our farms teemed with plenty, and peace and happiness were enjoyed in our domestic circle and throughout our neighborhood. But as we could not associate with our neighbors, who were, many of them, the basest of men. I highlight that, you guys, because I'm not trying to cast judgment on you if you've gambled before. But if you have, you probably already know that you are rubbing shoulders with the basest of men and women. It's obvious. You think about Las Vegas, and when I say Las Vegas, I'm talking about the Strip and Fremont Street and all that. You think about the type of characters that go there, or just any casino anywhere. It's not wholesome. I can tell you that. Okay, who were many of them of the basest of men, and had fled from the face of civilized society to the frontier country to escape the hand of justice. In their midnight revels, their Sabbath breaking, horse racing, and gambling, and there it is right there, they commenced at first to ridicule, then to persecute, and finally an organized mob assembled and burned our houses, tarred and feathered and whipped many of our brethren, and finally drove them from their habitations. These houseless and homeless, contrary to law, justice, and humanity, had to wander in the bleak prairies till the children left the tracks of their blood on the prairie. Yeah, I've never looked at it from that point of view. I've gone ahead and I've saved this quote, as well as these other two from President Hinckley and President Oaks, on my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. I thought I already had a row for gambling, but I guess not. So this is the new row 220 for gambling. I have these three quotes. We'll finish with this one from, at the time, Elder Dallin H. Oaks of the Quorum of the 12. This is in the June 1987 Ensign. It says, from an address delivered at Ricks College, which is now BYU, Idaho, devotional on the 6th of January, 1897. Or, oh my gosh, not that far back, 1987. I just wanted to read, I think there was just the one highlight, but I'm sure the whole thing is good. All right, he says, gambling tends to corrupt its participants. Its philosophy of something for nothing undermines the virtues of work, industry, thrift, and service to others. The seductive lure of a huge possible windfall for a small quote-unquote investment. That's one of those words that people try and strain at and try and the people that play with words. It's one of these words. Encourages participants to gamble with funds needed for other purposes, even the basics of food and housing. Gamblers commonly deprive themselves, they often impoverish their families, and they sometimes steal from others to finance their indulgence. Now, you guys, I have actually experienced that. Someone stealing money from me to gamble. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was just some change. But before my mission, I was hanging out with one of my friends from the singles ward. We just wanted to go out for a day. We drove to Wendover just to hang out, get something to eat. And we were walking around in the casino, and he was like, "Hey, do you have any change?" And I seem to recall I thought he was going to like make a phone call because back then back then there were still payphones. Oh my gosh. How old am I? Um and so I'm like, yeah, no problem. And so I think that's what he told me. I think that's what he told me. Do you have some change? Do you have some quarters so I can make a call? And so I gave him some quarters. And then he walked right over to one of the slot machines and threw away my money, basically. And he didn't pay me back. He didn't pay me back. Um, that was just a small example, but I've seen bigger examples. I've seen, so I worked for a credit card company. Um, well, I guess at this point, so I was in the fraud department, and so I was in Phoenix actually at that time. And I was in the fraud department, and my job was to uh, investigate potential fraud. And one thing that would come up from time to time is people would essentially claim fraud on cash advances at casinos because the credit card company that I worked for had they called it like a zero fraud guarantee. So like if there was actual fraud on your credit card, the credit card company would cover it. You wouldn't have to pay for it. Um, but we still investigated, suspicious circumstances. And one of those circumstances was when there were cash advances at a casino, because what some people would do, being aware of the zero fraud guarantee, they would go ahead and get cash from a ATM using their credit card, which is typically not a good idea because it has a higher interest rate compared to just pulling out cash from your bank. You just pay a fee. But with a credit card, you're borrowing money that you don't have, and cash advances are riskier, and so there's a larger interest rate. And so they would take that money, go gamble, and then try and claim it as fraud. And so we, as a credit card company, would have been out that money because somebody was trying to game the system. Probably because they were addicted, or probably because I think a lot of times these kind of people think, well, I've played this many games and statistically my time is coming. I'm going to hit it big and I'm just going to pay everybody off and everything will be fine. Everything that I've lost so far will be made up for in the next game. I think that's how a lot of people think. And it's ugly. It's ugly. I had a family member that would drive all the way up to Malad, Idaho, which is like a kind of like a border town with Utah. And he would buy Powerball tickets. And I was just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And guess what? Spoiler, he didn't ever win. All that happened was this money that could have been used on his family was being thrown away on a hope that he could hit it big. It's so sad. And these same type of people, unfortunately, from what I've seen, they also fall for things like pyramid schemes and just schemes in general. I did a video about that one time where the church has several times in general conference warned people against pyramid schemes and other get rich quick schemes. And look, it's all about this, the philosophy of something for nothing instead of doing actual work, instead of trying to produce some kind of value in society, trying to serve others. That's one of the beautiful things about capitalism, is that you get compensated for the value that you put out. And of course, it's an oversimplification because there's a lot of shady things that people do. But generally speaking, you produce something that somebody can use, and then they compensate you, and you do whatever work it takes to produce that product or provide that service, and then you both mutually benefit from it. But some people think that they're entitled to have something for nothing. I realize that there's other situations. Some people are desperate and they think that this is like a magical way that their problems are going to be fixed. But it's just really bad. It's really bad. That same person, the same person that went up to Malad to buy Powerball tickets, he was also into pyramid schemes and just any shady, stupid thing that came around that promised, oh, you only have to do this little bit of work. And then after that, it takes care of itself. And then you'll be a millionaire forever. You'll get all this passive income. All you need to do is just a little bit of work up front. It's foolish, you guys. It's foolish. All right, continuing. We are all familiar with cases in which trusted employees have stolen from their employers, bringing tragedy upon themselves and their families. All too often, this ruinous sequence is traceable to a desperate attempt to pay gambling debts or to finance further indulgence. I'm going to add on to this over time, just like all these other topics, all these rows that I have here. I'm going to do this, as long as I live, I guess. I actually don't know how long this is going to go for, but I'm going to keep adding to this. So please use this as a resource. If you're writing a talk or you're just studying the gospel, this is a resource that you can go to for authoritative teachings of the church. There's scriptures on here as well as quotes from general authorities. So gambling, stay away from it. Polymarket. Okay, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I hope he comes before 2027. That'd be interesting because that would be before the Salt Lake Temple is rededicated, which wouldn't surprise me because I think there's a lot of people that think that he's not going to come until the temple is rededicated, So I actually do think it's kind of a prime time for him to come. I feel like if I was to ask any one of you, when do you think he's going to come? The answer I would get would most likely be, well, probably within 2 to 5 years. Or for some of you, it'd be like, well, maybe like 5 to 15 years. You know why? Because that's always the answer I get from you guys. It's more on the rare side, it seems, for any of you to be like, yeah, I think it's really soon. Like, I think it could be next week. It does happen sometimes, but there's just this perpetual, no, well, I think like 3 to 5 years, or I think 10 to 15 years. That's like never going to end. Even in this community where we're like really focused on the second coming and watching for signs of the times, it never stops. So anyway, that's going to be for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.